Hi, and thanks for watching this message video. Today we're continuing on in a series called Standouts, where we're talking about a variety of different people throughout the Bible who stood out because of the way that they loved God or lived for God or loved Jesus or lived for Jesus. Or in other words, the way that they spoke or the way that they acted differentiated themselves from everybody else around them. And the person that we're talking about today is one of Jesus' disciples named Thomas. Now, I think we would all agree that all of the disciples are standouts because there were a lot of different people at that time who were following Jesus, and only 12 of them were actually selected to be his official apostles. In fact, look at what Luke wrote about the circumstances surrounding their invitation. Luke 6, 1 through 17. One Sabbath day, as Jesus was walking through some grain fields, his disciples broke off heads of grain, rubbed off the husks in their hands, and ate the grain. But some Pharisees said, "Why are you breaking the law by harvesting grain on the Sabbath?" Jesus replied, "Haven't you read in the scriptures what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He went into the house of God and broke the law by eating the sacred loaves of bread that only the priests can eat. He also gave some to his companions." And Jesus added, "The Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath." On another Sabbath day, a man with a deformed right hand was in the synagogue while Jesus was teaching. The teachers of religious law and Pharisees watched Jesus closely. If he healed the man's hand, they planned to accuse him of working on the Sabbath. But Jesus knew their thoughts. He said to the man with the deformed hand, "Come and stand in front of everyone." So the man came forward. Then Jesus said to his critics, "I have a question for you. Does the law permit good deeds on the Sabbath, or is it a day for doing evil? Is this a day to save life or to destroy it?" He looked around at them one by one and then said to the man, "Hold out your hand." So the man held out his hand, and it was restored. At this, the enemies of Jesus were wild with rage and began to discuss what to do with him. One day soon afterward, Jesus went up on a mountain to pray, and he prayed to God all night. At daybreak, he called together all of his disciples and chose 12 of them to be his apostles. Here are their names: Simon, whom he named Peter; Andrew, Peter's brother; James, John, Philip, Bartholomew; Matthew, Thomas; James, son of Alphaeus; Simon, who was called the Zealot; Judas, son of James; Judas Iscariot, who later betrayed him. When they came down from the mountain, the disciples stood with Jesus on a large level area surrounded by many of his followers and by the crowds. There were people from all over Judea and from Jerusalem and from as far north as the sea coasts of Tyre and Sidon. Jesus was bold. He was fierce, and he wasn't afraid to get into a fight for the right reason, and he handpicked a group of guys who he thought would be willing to do this exact same thing, which makes every single one of them standouts. However, Thomas was a standout amongst them. Some would say it's because of a bad thing. Thomas was the guy who doubted whether or not Jesus was alive, but that's a bad rap. Every single one of the disciples doubted whether or not Jesus was alive, and until he presented himself to them, they would all have still been doubting. And so I hope to change that perception of Thomas today. Now, one of the things that we do know for sure about Thomas is that Thomas is not his real name. Thomas is actually a nickname. It's a shortened version of the Greek word didymus, which means double or twice or twofold, which means that Thomas is a twin. And this gives us some insight that people may not realize about why Jesus maybe chose this guy Thomas to be a part of his team. You see, when it comes to twins, there are two primary types of twins. There is identical twins that come from the same egg, and then there's fraternal twins that come from two different eggs. Either way, it really doesn't matter. What we know is that when a twin is a twin, it is something special and something unique. In fact, that's what every single twin that I've ever talked to says. Now, according to science, the reason why this is special and unique is because twins experience a connectedness or a bond with their sibling that changes their overall outlook in terms of life and brings actually greater health. In fact, it's a known fact that loneliness decreases our lifespan, and that there are negative physical and mental impacts when someone is disloyal to us or unfaithful to us. For this reason, it's been proven that twins live longer. And for that reason, oftentimes twins have a higher expectation of loyalty of others and set the standards for loyalty for others. Again, this may be the reason why Jesus wanted this guy to be on his team. And a demonstration of this faithfulness and loyalty was actually mentioned last week, if you caught that message video. When Jesus was going back into the region of Judea, He wanted to deal with the situation with Lazarus and Mary and Martha, and everybody thought he was going to be dying. But the apostles were like, whoa, time out, dude. If you go back into there, it's going to risk not just your life and all of our lives as well. But if you remember, Thomas's response was different than all the rest. John 11, 7 through 16. Finally, he said to his disciples, let's go back to Judea. But his disciples objected. Rabbi, they said, only a few days ago, the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going there again? Jesus replied, there are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world. But at night, there is danger of stumbling because they have no light. Then he said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go wake him up. The disciples said, Lord, if he is sleeping, he will soon get better. They thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping. But Jesus meant Lazarus had died. So he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and for your sakes I'm glad I wasn't there, for now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. Thomas, nicknamed the Twins, said to his fellow disciples, let's go too and die with Jesus. Twins have an all-in mentality for the most part, and they expect an all-in mentality from those who are around them. And again, this is one of the reasons why a lot of twins will tell you that they struggle to form relationships with people until they know whether or not those people are all in or not. Again, this is one of the reasons why I believe that Jesus wanted Thomas on his team, because he knew that Thomas was going to be the kind of guy who would set the standard for faithfulness and loyalty, that he would live in a way that he would love Jesus like a twin. Is that what people see from you? Do you stand out like Thomas, and that you love Jesus like a twin? And that you will stand up and be faithful and loyal to him, and everybody knows it, can see that you're willing to go and fight the same fight and do the same things, and even if necessary, lose your life for Christ. That's what Thomas was, and he stood out this way even amongst all the rest of those apostles. Another instance when Thomas's loyalty and faithfulness to Jesus was put on display was on the night of the Last Supper. If you don't remember what took place, there was a lot of chaos that happened in that night. And in that night, something took place where Thomas once again demonstrated his desire to be with Jesus. Here's what we're told. John 13:31 through 14:6. As soon as Judas left the room, Jesus said, the time has come for the Son of Man to enter into his glory, and God will be glorified because of him. And since God receives glory because of the Son, he will give his own glory to the Son, and he will do so at once. Dear children, I will be with you only for a little longer. And as I told the Jewish leaders, you will search for me, but you can't come where I am going. So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. Simon Peter asked, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus replied, you can't go with me now, but you will follow me later. But why can't I come now, Lord? He asked. I'm ready to die for you. Jesus answered, die for me? I tell you the truth, Peter, before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny 3 times that you even know me. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me. There is more than enough room in my Father's home. If this were not so, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? When everything is ready, I will come and get you so that you will always be with me where I am. And you know the way to where I am going. No, we don't, Lord, Thomas said. We have no idea where you are going. So how can we know the way? Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. As you can see, not just Thomas and not just Peter, but all of the disciples were hopelessly frustrated and confused. They had no clue what Jesus was saying, and they were desperately trying to figure it all out. Now, we have the benefit now of looking back on this and knowing exactly what Jesus was saying. He was trying to tell them that there's only one way that anyone can ever experience a relationship with the Father in heaven or get to the Father in heaven, and that's by believing in Jesus' sacrificial death and resurrection, and then surrendering their life over to him like what these guys had done. But they didn't get that then. Now, we get that now, but they didn't get that then. All they knew at this point in time was that the one that they loved was leaving, and they couldn't go where he was going, and they couldn't figure out why. And on top of all of that, their leader, Peter, they just got informed that this was the guy who was going to actually deny Jesus 3 times by the next morning. And all of this suddenly gets interrupted because Judas comes back. And then there's this awkward kiss. And then there's this fight. And then he's arrested. And the next thing you know, they got to watch him being tortured and brutalized. And the whole time they're thinking, oh, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Get down off that cross. And he doesn't. He dies. Can you imagine what that would have been like to try to pull Jesus off the cross, help prepare his body for burial? What that would have been like to wrap him up, all those grave clothes, and then finally roll a stone across his tomb? These are the things that these guys had to deal with. This is the stuff that it's so hard to explain to anybody how crushing it would be when you love somebody and you are so loyal and so faithful to somebody and you keep waiting for them and then they're gone. Now, everybody knows, who knows the story, that this crushing sorrow, it only lasted for a few days. And the reason for it is that Jesus came back to life, and he didn't just come back to life, he systematically started appearing to different people. In fact, listen to what the Apostle John wrote. John 21 through 20. Early on Sunday morning, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and found that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance. She ran and found Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved. She said, "They have taken the Lord's body out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." Peter and the other disciple started out for the tomb. They were both running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He stooped and looked in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he didn't go in. Then Simon Peter arrived and went inside. He also noticed the linen wrappings lying there, while the cloth that had covered Jesus' head was folded up and lying apart from the other wrappings. Then the disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. For until then, they still hadn't understood the scriptures that said Jesus must rise from the dead. Then they went home. Mary was standing outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she stooped and looked in. She saw two white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been laying. "Dear woman, why are you crying?" the angels asked her. "Because they have taken away my Lord," she replied, "and I don't know where they have put him." She turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. "Dear woman, why are you crying?" Jesus asked her. "Who are you looking for?" She thought he was the gardener. "Sir," she said, "if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him." "Mary," Jesus said. She turned to him and cried out, "Rabboni," which is Hebrew for teacher. "Don't cling to me," Jesus said, "for I haven't yet ascended to the Father. But go and find my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, "I have seen the Lord." Then she gave them his message. That Sunday evening, the disciples were meeting behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. Suddenly, Jesus was standing there among them. "Peace be with you," he said. As he spoke, he showed them the wounds in his hands and his side, and they were filled with joy when they saw the Lord. Now, as I said before, Thomas gets a bad rap. And the reason why he gets a bad rap is because everybody said that, well, he was the guy who doubted whether or not Jesus was alive. Well, the reason why he gets a bad rap is because at this current moment, Thomas is not with the rest of the apostles. He wasn't there when Jesus showed up and was like, "Hey, take a look, it's me. Look at the nail wounds, look at the hole in my side." So he wasn't there. The reason why he gets a bad rap is because he wasn't there. So have you ever wondered where Thomas was at this particular point in time? Well, let me ask you, where do you go when you're at your lowest? Is there anybody that you have that's super close to you? I guarantee you, Thomas had somebody who was a twin. I know where Thomas was. Where do you go when you're at your lowest? Is there somebody that you can go to? I mean, God obviously wants us to know that we can always go to him, but is there somebody that he regularly uses in your life to help heal you when you're at your lowest? How about this? Does God use you to help heal others when they're at their lowest? Does he take you and show you how to be a help to others when they've experienced disloyalty or unfaithfulness, and now he brings you into their world to help them? If not, maybe one of the reasons why is because you still need healing. You're still hurting. That's where Thomas was at. He was still hurting. He didn't get to experience what the rest of the guys got. And so, that's why Jesus did this. John 20, 24 through 29. One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, was not with the others when Jesus came. They told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he replied, I won't believe it unless I see the nail wounds in his hands, put my fingers into them, and place my hand into the wound in his side. 8 days later, the disciples were together again, and this time Thomas was with them. The doors were locked, but suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. Peace be with you, he said. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here. Look at my hands. Put your hand into the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe. My Lord and my God, Thomas exclaimed. Then Jesus told him, you believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing me. Like I said earlier, Jesus was bold. He was fierce. And he was not afraid to fight for the right reasons with the right people in order to make a point. And then what he did is he went and he hand-selected, after praying all night long, a group of guys that he thought would have the chops to go and do the same thing. And they did. And one of the things that radically changed these guys was not just the overall experience of being with Jesus, but they saw him raised to life again. And this changed everything for all of them. In fact, we're told that Thomas, shortly after the persecution started taking place in the church in Jerusalem, he left. And that he traveled to, of all places, India. And while there in India, he immediately converted a large number of Jews who were living there over to Christianity. And he continued to have a massive impact as he spread the good news in that land. In fact, this led to his death. We're told that a Kali priest became so enraged with Thomas that he kept converting all of his followers over to Christianity that he killed him. This is why Thomas was a standout. He was not afraid to be faithful and loyal to Jesus, or to be all in, all the way to the end. How about you? Do you stand out that way? Are you the kind of person, once again, that people look at and they go, man, you love Jesus like a twin. You are ready to go and die for him and be faithful to him and loyal to him. And you set the standard of what it means in terms of faithfulness and loyalty. Is that how you stand out? Let me ask this question. Even though you've never seen Jesus, do you truly believe in him and as a result experience the blessing that comes from his life? And now you are living like a standout for him everywhere that you go? This is what God wants from us as followers. And this is genuinely what I want personally as a follower, is that I would be the kind of individual, and I hope you would feel the same way, that you would be willing to stand out for Jesus, and that you would demonstrate for everyone around you that you are all in.